Hello, and welcome to this segment of interviews. Today, we are so happy to have a local artisan potter with us, Wendy Wren of Wren Pottery. Welcome, Wendy, to the show.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
I'm really interested in just helping everyone else to know more about you
Uh-huh.
and your journey from your original career, which we'll talk about a little bit, into artistry and ultimately figuring out what the connection is between
Mm-hmm.
your work and wellness. So let's just get to it. So I understand that originally you were a science teacher.
Yes, I taught high school biology and human anatomy in Charlotte, North Carolina at Butler High School for 10 years.
Wow, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big change from science teacher to artisan and potter. How did that transition take place?
Well, towards the end of my first year teaching, I decided to take a pottery class as sort of a gift to myself for not quitting. And it was a once a week class, and it was just sort of a stress relief. And over the years, I would go in and practice because it was a studio where
Hmm.
you had a combination and you could go in and work outside of your class time. Um, and a few years after that, I took a little more intensive class at a Penland craft school in North Carolina
Okay.
in the summer. And so I just kept taking more lengthy, involved classes. And actually, I got done with a workshop here in Floyd in 2005.
Oh, so you had a little taste of Floyd before you actually
Yeah,
moved here, huh?
just a taste.
Nice.
And when I left that workshop, it was just a very clear decision. I was going to leave teaching and I was going to try to be a studio potter and
Wow.
make my living that way. And
Wow.
completely left field, completely out of character.
Something new. Had you not taken these kind of leaps of faith before? Or?
Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never.
I understand. I did the
Yeah.
same thing. I went from engineering to holistic medicine. So, yeah.
Catches you by surprise.
Yeah, I think it's something about Floyd that does that to you too,
Mhm.
that you get a little spark
Yeah.
of something here and it ignites it. So that's great. So you kind of found your passion now.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So tell me a little bit about your business. Tell me about Wren Pottery.
Well, Wren is my middle name. My last name is Worsline. Worsline Pottery didn't flow quite as well, so I went with Wren.
Okay.
And I work out of my house, and I travel to craft shows, and I am in a few galleries, and I do commission work when people want a very specific set of mugs or set of plates. I do things like that, and so it's crescendoing. I hope things build each year. I try to get into bigger and better craft shows, and more galleries.
Mm-hmm.
So, and hopefully eventually sort of wean off other part-time jobs that I have to sort of fill in the holes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know we've got a little bit of your pottery here that you were so gracious to
Yeah,
let us
couple mugs,
to let us use
some water.
today. Do you specialize in making certain pieces of pottery, or are you mostly mugs, or do you do a
Mhm.
variety of different things?
I focus mostly on functional things
Okay.
that you would use in the kitchen or the dining room, and some vases, but it's mostly functional ware. I like the idea and the reality of using in a daily way the things that I make. And with my focus in biology was the human body as
Mhm.
well as evolution and change over time. And so I like the aspect of pottery of making it over and over again and it gets better. And when you use it, you realize the handle should be more like this and less like that.
Nice.
And also just the functionality appeals to my more linear side.
Nice. Yeah, it's amazing how sometimes two careers that you have that seem like they have absolutely nothing to do with each other really do sort of come together. That first career prepares you in ways you never
Yes.
thought about for the thing you ultimately were meant to do.
I
So,
agree.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
kind of neat. That's kind of neat. So, running a business, I know I've got a business of my
Mhm.
own, lots of hours,
Mhm.
lots of time.
Yeah.
How do you keep it together?
Um,
Do you keep it
Dude,
together?
yeah,
Right?
that answer can change day to day. Well, let's see, how do I keep it together? I try to be less hard on myself. I find that has worked better than being hard on myself
Yeah.
around that. And reminding myself that it's a process and it grows and it changes, and also finding ways to supplement my income in ways that sort of support the pottery. So in the fall, hopefully I will be teaching online an anatomy class, so I'm still using my teaching certification
Okay.
at the high school level. And those are things I can do out of the home. So if I need to run and trim some mugs and then go check the computer and grade some tests, so I've got that flexibility there.
Wonderful.
So finding things to do that can support each other instead of competing for that time.
Right. Okay. Wonderful.
So that's one way.
Good, good. And it sounds like you're on the road quite a bit doing different shows and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you look like you're in really good shape. And apparently the not being too hard on yourself is working because you're looking pretty stress-free right now.
Thank you.
How do you manage to maintain your healthy practices when you are traveling a lot? Because I know that's a big deal, eating out and trying to maintain exercise and that kind of thing, and just not getting caught up in the stress of, oh my gosh, this is the life I have chosen for myself. How do you manage to do it when you're on the road?
Well, thus far, I apply to shows mainly where I know people or my family is located.
Okay.
So I have a supportive component when I travel to shows. At the end of the show, I can go back to their house or their place and relax a little bit. So, and that also helps with the overhead. You're not paying for a place to stay.
Which definitely is a stress reliever.
Yes, yes. So there's that, and I also try to pack a lot of my own food. I try not to go to fast food and get things like that on the road when I can. Sometimes you got to have French fries.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and there's so much local produce and food around Floyd that it's easy to, stop at a Green's Garage or the Harvest Moon and pick up some good things and put them in the cooler, and then I'm on my way.
Nice, nice, very good. So it's
good. Of those things.
It's good to know for all you folks out there traveling that it is possible to bring your health along with you, to pack things, and it's probably more economical too, bringing your own food and not having to eat out all the time. So take that lesson from Wendy. If you are on the road, find some stuff to pack, get you a good travel cooler, and be amazed what it'll do for your health.
Yeah, exactly.
Really nice. So back to your pottery, where do your influences come from?
Well, I have influences that come from nature. Sort of the landscape around Floyd of the rolling hills and meandering streams. I find that sort of organic line and curves and soft edges finds their way into my work. There's a nature component, which is probably more biology influenced.
Nice.
Yeah, those are, and then the functionality of how do they work better, and that feeds into it as well.
Okay.
And if people, there were several shows where people were asking, do you make a butter dish? And I hadn't been making a butter dish. So now I'm going to make a butter dish. So that sort of interplay with the customers.
Nice. Pottery on demand.
Well. There you go.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So tell me about, again, you're living a good lifestyle. You're consciously working to maintain your wellness as you are growing your business, which, can be a little stressful. Tell me about your thoughts about the connection between art and wellness.
Okay. Let's see. Connection. Well, if you're run down, tired, or sick, you're not going to be in the studio as much. So there's a very literal connection there, that if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't be in there to make the work. But I also am learning that when I can sort of stay in the present more and, eat more healthy things or give myself a break when I need a break, that when I do need to be in the studio for 6, 8, 10 hours, if I'm glazing at a time, I can do it. And I can do that, and it feels good to be able to do that, knowing that when that time is over, I can go lay down and sleep.
Nice, very nice. So what's on the horizon for you? Do you have some new shows coming up, or are you working on a new line, or what's happening?
Well, I'll be going to Asheville, North Carolina for the Big Crafty. It'll be the first time in this sort of indie craft show that they have there, so I'm excited about that.
Okay.
And on the way, I will stop and see some customers and show them a couple prototypes of dinnerware sets, so I can get started making a set of dinnerware for them.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so a little road trip.
Very good. And if people are interested in finding some of your work, where can they find it?
I have a website. It's wrenpottery.com, and I also have an Etsy store. It's best to go to the website Wren Pottery and link to the Etsy shop that way, because it can be difficult, I think, to search on Etsy sometimes.
To find it. Very good. All right. So if you guys are out there looking for some amazing pottery, and I will tell you, I have some of Wendy's pieces at home, and they are showcase pieces, but usable. I definitely use them. You want to go visit wrenpottery.com and check out her work. And I'm sure there's something out there for you. So I want to thank you, Wendy, for coming to visit us. Love to visit you maybe at shop sometime so we can see how all of these beautiful things actually come to be.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Hi, and welcome to another segment of Well with Elle. Today, we're going to talk about how to get back to school in healthy style. Another school year is upon us, and we all know that the beginning of the school year can be particularly stressful for kids. New teachers, new classmates, bigger classrooms, new routines. It can be really unnerving and overwhelming for children who are going through a transitional period, like starting elementary school or middle school or high school or even college. If you want to help your child and yourself make the transition back to school a little easier this year, here are some proactive steps that you can take to make back to school a non-stressful experience. Ease children back into the school year routine gradually. Maybe during the last 2 or 3 weeks of summer, begin to reintroduce your child to a bedtime that's going to work for them when they start going back to school. You also might want to begin waking up late risers a little bit earlier every day or every week so that by the time they start school, they'll be right back on track and right back on schedule for getting up and getting going in the morning. The night before the first day of school is really when the rubber meets the road. So you want to make sure that your kids are getting enough sleep so that they'll have a great first day. Definitely make sure they're getting at least 8 hours. If they're younger children, 9 or 10 might be appropriate. Not getting enough sleep can make getting up in the morning really hard and getting that first day off to a really, really rough start that nobody wants to deal with. After getting a good night's sleep, the next question is what to wear. This is an easy one. Have your kids get their clothes ready the night beforehand. Let them try things on, pick things out, and just have them sitting there waiting for them to put on in the morning. Make sure they wear something comfortable and something that makes them feel really good about themselves, because it'll make the transition into the new school year that much easier if they're not worrying about what they're looking like or if other people are not going to like what they have on. Navigating school lunch is always a big issue. Lunch is kind of every kid's favorite period in school, but with tacos and burgers and french fries to face when you're really, really hungry, it can be hard to make really good choices. Remember, food is fuel, and it's the energy that your kids need to keep them going through the remainder of the school day. And some food choices are definitely better than others to help keep kids engaged and energized throughout the entire day. Encourage your children to eat good proteins like chicken or turkey or beans or even Greek yogurt, and make sure they add lots of fruits and vegetables to their meal. Those things are going to provide the vitamins and minerals that your kids are going to need and give them the energy that they need to get through the day. Foods that have a lot of simple carbohydrates like sugary snacks and donuts and even french fries might give them a quick fix of energy, but in the long run, they're going to end up tired before the rest of the afternoon is over. And the same thing holds true of sugary drinks like sodas or fruit juices or drinks with too much caffeine as well. Another way to deal with the lunchtime dilemma is Pack your lunch. Now, I know a lot of kids are adverse to this and it's kind of old fashioned, but if you pack your lunch at least 2 or 3 times a week, you can ensure that they're not getting one more hot dog or one more set of chicken nuggets and french fries as their meal, that they're getting something nutritious and something that's really going to last them. And it's a great way to kind of find that balance. They can choose school lunch a couple of days, and they can also make sure that they're definitely getting something healthy those other days that you're packing the lunch. That'll take the stress off of you, and believe it or not, off of them as well. One great thing you can do to help the transition to school be less stressful is to make a place for everything. How many times have you heard, "I can't find my homework. I think the dog ate my homework. Oh my goodness, did I have homework?" If you make a place where everything needs to happen, it makes it much easier to keep up with things. Create a dedicated space to put important school papers like forms and permission slips and registration forms. Have your child use an accordion folder with color tabs to keep their schoolwork in, a tab for each class. That way, it'll make it much easier to get things in there, out, and back in so that they will make it to school on time. Maintain a family calendar on a wall or in a common area and keep information like field trips, sporting events, even doctor's appointments and lunch menus. That way, everybody knows what's going on and there's no last minute surprises first thing in the morning when you're trying to get yourself ready to get out the house. Establish an area where homework is to be done. Now, this might be a little different for all kids because different children need different settings to do their homework. Some kids need to have a desk that's very neat and clean, and if that's the case for your child, that's fine, make it so. Other kids do much better when they're curled up on the couch with a laptop desk in their laps to do their homework. Whatever way that it happens best for your children, make sure that they have adequate space, adequate lighting, and adequate materials like pens, paper, pencils, and rulers to get their homework done in efficient time. Just like a well-tended garden, the new school year is ripe with possibilities. The possibility of creating something new and wonderful for both you and your child. The more prepared you are, the more prepared your child will be. So get organized now and let's make this the best school year ever. Today on Simply Delicious, we are making guacamole. It's that time of year when we're out, we're picnicking, we're hanging out on our decks, we're having a great time outside, and guacamole is always a favorite in my house, and it's so simple to make. All you need are a nice ripe avocado, I like sweet Vidalia onion, a little bit of tomato, and some cilantro, lemon, and a little bit of salt. So let's figure out how to put this all together. Now, one of the avocados I've already taken out, but I'm going to show you how to get the avocado meat out of the fruit itself. You want to make sure that your avocado is nice and ripe, so when you pick it, you want it to be a little soft, not too hard. If it's hard, you're going to have to let it ripen a little bit before you can use it. So basically all you want to do is cut along the long edge of the avocado, and inside there is a nice seed in it. If you cut along the long edge all the way around and just kind of give your knife a little turn, your avocado would come out in wonderful little halves. Get yourself a spoon, and actually what you can do to make the process even a little easier is to cut the avocado meat while it's still inside of the skin. Sort of dice it up right inside of the skin, and then just get a spoon spoon that all out. Avocado is so good for you. It's wonderful in healthy fats and lots of vitamin E. So get that off the spoon there. And the other side, you want to obviously get the seed out. And usually I just take the spoon and kind of work around the seed, loosen it up inside of the meat, and then just scoop it out. And I use my empty shell as storage for the seed. And we'll do the same thing. We'll slice the meat inside. Get it nice and cubed up there. And then we are going to scoop it out into a bowl. Avocados or guacamole is one of those one dish meals where everything happens in one dish, so that's kind of nice. Of course, I've got a few things that are pre-chopped, but usually I'm doing all the chopping and everything goes right into the same bowl all at the same time. Okay, so I've got my avocado out. I'm going to sit that over here to the side. And I'm going to add the other bit of avocado that I already had. I'm going to put that in the bowl as well. Next thing I want to do is I want to mash my avocado. Now I usually use just a masher like I would do with mashed potatoes. And I want to mash that up real good. When your avocado is nice and ripe, it really mashes up very nicely. You get a nice smooth consistency. You don't necessarily want big chunks because when it's time to go and dip your chips in it, you just want to get a nice smooth salsa kind of texture. So we've got that mashed up pretty good. We're going to get everything out of our masher because we want every bit of this because it's going to be great when we're finished. All right, the next thing we want to do is we can add our onion next. And again, I used a Vidalia onion. You could use red onion. You could use just a regular white onion if you like. I tend to just like the sweeter Vidalia onion. You'll notice because I'm not baking is quite the science and everything has to be exact. When you're cooking, you're free to kind of interpret it as you would. And so I'm not going to use a lot of onion. This is probably a little bit over a tablespoon of onion. I'm going to put that in there. And next we are going to add our tomato. Now any kind of tomato will really do. I used regular hothouse tomatoes. Oftentimes I'll use Roma tomatoes, that's fine. Again, I've got a little bit diced up here, but just so we can see how we did that. Slice my tomato. And I like to cheat and slice it again before I start doing all my chopping. And you'll notice, I think juicy tomatoes make the best salsa because you just get all of that great juice in there and it makes it really yummy and tasty. And I don't dice it up too small because I do want to taste the tomato. I don't want it to be like tomato sauce in there. So I'm going to put in the tomato that I already had, juice and all. And I'm going to put in the tomato that I just diced up. And usually I will use, as I said, I had 2 avocados and about a tablespoon or so of onion. And usually I will use a whole tomato, not necessarily a great big one, maybe a medium-sized tomato, but I will usually use the whole thing, probably because my family really likes guacamole, so I've got to make sure that I've got enough to keep everybody happy for a while. So we'll get that in there. I'm going to sit that over to the side. All right, now I like to use fresh cilantro in my guacamole. You can also use dried cilantro if you want. And sometimes I will use stems and all, but definitely I want to get the leafy part of it. And I find that because cilantro is an aromatic herb, that the finer you chop it, the more the flavor of the cilantro actually gets into the meal. And so again, always watch your fingers. Notice I'm looking at this and not the camera when I'm chopping because I want my fingers to be there when I look up. I just want to chop it up really nice and fine. And it also is really great because it gives some nice color to your guacamole. So I'm going to use a little bit of the stem, not a whole lot. And just go back again, turn it around a little bit, get it chopped up really nice and fine. Oh, it smells wonderful. I love the smell of cilantro. It's so fresh. Every drop of it in there. All right, so we've got our cilantro going. And lastly, I'm going to use a little bit of fresh lemon juice. Some people like lime in their guacamole. I am definitely a lemon kind of girl. So I'm going to use about 1/4 of a lemon. Make sure when you squeeze the lemon, you squeeze it so the seeds don't go in it. So I'm just going to squeeze the juice through my hands. Now you'll find that lemon actually will give you the taste of salt. It plays on the tongue in the same place that salt does. And so you want to make sure you kind of taste your food as you go along. Sometimes a little bit of salt at the end will bring out the flavor. Once everything is in there, we want to just mix it all up. That's looking good. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for the party right now. And this is great, you know, for a weekend, if you're just sitting around watching a movie, if you've got to take a dish to a party that you're going to, or you're headed out for a picnic. Guacamole is always a hit. So we're going to plate up a little bit of it. Move this bowl. A little on our plate, which is super festive, going along with our guacamole. Add a few chips around it. Let's have a taste. Simply delicious. Easy guacamole, make it in a heartbeat. Healthy, really good for you, and really tasty for any occasion.